professional from here, and that leads us to two questions. But first, I think it's wise for us to choose who's going to be the investigator and who is going to be the ghost. So, any strong preferences there?
No, I could be either.
I'll be the investigator then.
Okay, and I'll be the ghost.
Good choice, Stephen. Nice. Okay, you can fill in your names there. And I don't have this wired into the playbooks, but each playbook has a single move. Oh no, maybe I do have it wired in. Yeah, well, at least I have the. Wow, I do have it wired in. I clearly had time on my hands. So each move has a playbook, has a move. Each playbook has a move. With the ghost playbook, it's largely kind of how you appeared in the material world. And with the investigator, it is largely what kind of what's your style of investigation? So I'll give you two a moment to individually select those.
So, William, do you think you're actually like a PI?
Yeah, why not? That sounds good to me.
Okay.
You know, all of the benefits of being the framing. I know we're back in the cop thing and blah blah blah, but without the kind of department and bureaucracy and stuff like that.
Right.
But one honest man in a dirty town.
Yes.
I mean, you know, depending on how Brindlewood Bay goes, maybe this is how Bobby or Rose continues the case.
That's awesome.
And then we choose a move, right?
Right. Yeah. So there are 4 moves to choose from, and they're actually all wired in there, so you can just click through them to see.
The Sherlock Holmes.
Right.
The Sam Spade.
Yeah.
The Monk, I suppose. Or the Columbo, I guess. You ruined someone's nice surprise. Nice. You know, I'm tempted to go with friendly and connected. I know a guy.
Okay. And
I'm going to go with artifact.
Nice. Okay.
And the artifact is a pocket watch.
Okay. That is on Will's character, or just exists in the world somewhere, or don't we know?
I think he probably picked it up at some point. But whether or not it was one that he inherited or was given to him or he just found in a store is something that we can.
Can I suggest that it was found clutched in your hands on your dead body?
Ooh, yeah, that's perfect.
And Will, it looks like you are friendly and connected. Good. It says, at any point you can say, I know a guy, and describe an NPC who can help you progress on one of your current leads. So I think what I will do is create an NPC sheet.
Yeah, after I accepted it, I was like, oh, I've just chosen the move which gives Dan more work to do.
That is quite all right. It is work I love doing. So you have picked individual moves that kind of define you, and now we need character names. apparently I put style in there. I don't remember what style means, but you can describe something about yourselves in there. And pronouns would be great. And once you are done with that, we can answer the relationship prompts.
So you were my partner, right? And when someone kills your partner, a man's supposed to do something about it. To keep quoting Sam Spade's people, but I was thinking of Cole Floyd being the friendly face of our good cop bad cop duo, perhaps, and you were like the serious guy. Does that work for you? Or
It does. What I was actually thinking was how that partnership, was maintained. If you're a PI, I imagine I was one of your contacts, one of your go-to guys. So maybe that was like I worked in an office, like maybe I worked in the police department, and but more of as a clerk.
Okay.
And you were going, I was kind of your in. I would find some paperwork and maybe slip it your way or something like that.
Yeah, we were friends back when I worked in the force before I got too tired of the rules and the regulations and the corruption. Yeah, and the bribes. Ooh. And the only place that pocket watch had ever been seen before was in the evidence lockup of our precinct.
Ooh.
All right, so this is great. So now we come back to the relationship. There are 2 prompts. And the point of these is really just to kind of do sort of what you all were just doing, which is give us a little bit more about the connection between the 2. So the first question is, what kind of work did you both do? This is when the ghost was alive, is what that prompt is. It also, I think, goes under the assumption that you were working together. So I'm glad you landed on that, but doesn't necessarily have to be that you were working together.
I think that's the professional one, though.
Yeah.
I think that relationship type requires you both to have been working at least overlapping fields.
Right.
Well, another option that I was considering was being the snitch, right?
Ooh, the
And
CI.
then it's a little bit, yeah.
I do like that. I mean, I would have said, you're either the CI or you are the whistleblower. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you were the one who was giving. The reason I left the force is I took down the corrupt things, but you were my man on the inside, giving me all the documents and CCTV things and helping me blow this case wide open.
But I could see, as a snitch, we could have completely different jobs, right? You could be a cop, and I could be like a drug dealer. Yeah.
Oh yeah, entirely. Yeah. So I mean, I was a policeman. Do you want to be the CI or do you want to be the clerk? Which would you say?
I think the clerk.
Yeah. We both. I've just deleted all of my friendly and connected stuff. There we go. So we both worked as someone's anonymous leopard is in the books already. But whoever's already in the field. Well, I will start writing it. It's working for me now.
Go for it.
Yeah. We both worked at precinct 23, just because that's what I'm using in one of my games already, and I don't have to think of a new one. Casey helped Floyd helped Cole. I prefer Cole to Floyd. Helped Cole expose a corrupt squad before he left the force. And then you were like my guy on the inside, like giving me a heads up about a big case or about how O'Malley's showed up with bruises again. And,
Nice. So the second prompt is describe a time when you worked really well together to overcome a challenge.
And this is before the ghost?
Before you died, yes.
I mean, exposing that corruption seems to be the answer. Yeah. And I think that relied totally on me you being like the the silent partner
Yes,
in the equation,
absolutely. And I was like, this doesn't add up. My job's really just to file things and put things away. It's not to investigate. But there's something here that doesn't add up, and I feed you the information. You put it all together and chase down the leads, and
yeah.
yeah.
I like that we've created a working relationship, a living relationship that sort of mirrors our current relationship.
All right. I'm just editing as I go. We are done with character creation. Did you fill in the answer to that prompt, or did you think of an answer to that?
No, from my screen it looked as though you were for a second.
Oh,
For a
sorry.
second, sorry, I will do that. Casey provided Cole with information and mismatching evidence logs and so on, whilst Cole took on the investigation directly.
Cool. This is fantastic.
And that was my mistake. I let him stay behind in that den of vipers. I should have got him out of there.
So Casey, do you think you were killed by the corrupt police?
I don't know why I was killed. And maybe we'll find that out during play, or maybe that's for the future.
Cool.
Maybe it's just the Brindlewood Bay influence, but the fact that he's got an artifact that Thingy has now got me like, there is some, the corruption that we exposed was merely the surface layer of a deeper conspiracy within the police.
Yeah, so we talked about Cole's move, which is basically people, and at any point you can add an NPC to the scene to give you a roll with advantage. With Casey, this is basically a new manifestation type. So whereas if you can only usually pick the attunement or the manifestation style based on what level of attunement you have. So right now it's just emotional manifestation. However, because of your move, inhabit, you can now use that at any time. I don't know what that, I'll be curious to see what inhabiting a pocket watch will do to help the investigation. But I guess you can possess any object or to move or control them. So this to me says it's not just the pocket watch, but any object you can inhabit. So we'll see how that helps. So we are good with the characters. I was going to transition to maybe tee up what the mystery could be. Does that sound okay, or did you want to talk about characters anymore?
I think I'm good. I've got a good feel for Casey. So yeah.
Great. Okay, cool. I had imagined a murder on a college campus, and that our investigator was kind of called in maybe as a favor to someone on the college campus because they're not happy with how the local police are handling it.
Well, it was clearly Professor Ava Nelson who we were once to think.
It was Professor
Ava Nelson. Eva Nelson.
Yep, and she, what is she a professor of? What department does she work in?
She is the Department of Criminology.
Okay, cool. And how do you know her?
Intimately.
We're special friends. Is that what you're
saying? We were special friends.
Yeah. We're special. Okay, former special friends.
Yeah,
not regular friends.
Mm-hmm.
I think I knew her as well. I studied under her.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But I don't know that I knew the two of you were special friends back in the day, so we'll see that in play.
Oh, you introduced us, but
Right. It was at a
No,
party. It was at a
yeah,
party. We were visiting, and I was like, "Oh, you'll like Professor Ava. You guys might get along."
yeah, and I think the fact that we were special friends is not a thing that we made public to you.
Right.
Might hurt him. Was that the idea that maybe Casey had a little crush
Ooh.
on Ava?
Maybe.
Stand by. We need to find a picture of. Oh boy, so much stock photography in this world. Fantastic. And I'm imagining this college campus being sort of not nestled in a city, not nestled in a big city. So maybe Cole, if you are based in a large city, this is one of those campuses that's maybe like an hour's drive outside the city. That's sort of what I had in mind. Does that sound reasonable to you all? It's like a self-contained place, so you're not kind of traipsing all over the city.
Yeah.
Cool. Any ideas for what to name this school?
One thing that I do in every Gauntlet game that I give is I load up fancynamegenerator.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a question. What's Ava's last name?
Nelson?
Can we call it like the Nelson Academy or something like that to make her more important?
Okay. So
Could we call it maybe like the Nelson Hoffman Academy?
Ooh.
Like it, so that she's like part of it rather than the whole deal,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And my idea isn't that she is one of the founders, but she is related to one of the founders.
Oh yeah, entirely, yeah.
Right.
I just wanted to diffuse it slightly from.
Oh yeah. That's perfect.
She's a granddaughter or a great granddaughter of a founder.
Or everybody assumes that it's direct, but it could be distant, and who knows? But yeah.
Right. Awesome. And maybe let's play out the scene when you get the call. Or actually, let me ask this question first. Cole, are you aware of the ghost, or are we gonna determine that in play?
What do you think, Stephen?
Well, I know that you've definitely gotten like cold feelings, and whether or not that manifests as your intuition has gotten stronger, or especially, maybe your emotional involvement with Ava has brought you here. I'm not sure how you would deal with that awareness. I think there's some actions going on that are unusual. But whether or not that's your emotional attachment to the case or not is up to you.
Yeah, because we're very far away from sensory manifestation, aren't we? The ability to actually see the ghost, the investigator.
You definitely cannot see the ghost. You have felt their presence. That's, I think, about as far as it's going.
You should definitely watch Random Hopcut, because the gimmick of that one is that the investigator can always see the ghost, but then all of the other manifestations are like, how it affects with the wider world. And it's kind of like that, an invisible friend that only you can see, and how much.
That's what we're working towards. So
yeah, but it's just that you bypass through like physical manifestations before you get to the ability just to talk to your other half.
Right.
I think emotional I'm curious how this is going to work, because I feel like it's in a duo game, it's going to be hard not being able to actually talk to the other character in any way. But I think emotional manifestations, it's definitely been weird. I keep feeling like I'm like Casey's there, like I keep like, maybe we used to hang out sometimes, you'd come around and we'd like watch the game together, or you know, or we go out for drinks and things like that. And I keep like feeling that you're there, that you're with me, and that you're, you know, and I'm like, Casey would have loved that. And like, you know,
I think this really comes into place in your car whenever you're
Mm,
driving in different places. And one of the reasons that is because you had collected the pocket watch and put it in the glove box of your car. So I think it's stronger in your car, and you're like, it feels like he's still here, and I'm still going to the bar with him, or I'm going someplace with him. But yeah,
yeah, if I like, I think Cole speeds a bit, and I think that Casey was always like, "Whoa, you'll get a ticket," kind of thing. And I think that he keeps like every time he goes over it, he just sort of goes like, "Whoa, damn it!" Like,
And maybe Casey is able to manifest that fear or anxiety that he felt when you would drive too fast. And so you start to feel a little bit of anxiety, like, wait, why am I'm only going 5 above the speed limit? Why am I feeling this way?
ooh,
Uh,
you know what? Also, get you know the Ava Professor Nelson was that Casey's got had a crush that was never fulfilled, right? Whereas Cole was a special friend, you know, has nice feelings and stuff, but it was all done with. Perhaps it's that kind of like, why do I feel like, you know, like,
I thought I was over her.
yeah, exactly. Like,
That's pretty cool. Um, Casey, I'm thinking also that maybe when Cole is speeding around town, you really felt like you wanted to give him a signal to slow down like you used to. And with the pocket watch there, you use that as an opportunity to kind of inhabit the pocket watch
uh-huh.
and maybe rustle it or do something to draw Casey's attention using that inhabit ability that you have. Does that
So I
sound
think,
right?
yeah, I think what happens is whenever we get to a high tension moment, you're speeding or something like that, the pocket watch will ding every hour, or if it's especially important, there's an alarm on the pocket watch that will go off. But in general, whenever you're speeding, you'll hear a ding from the glove compartment that's intended for the top of every hour, but that watch must be broken because it's happening whenever it's not at the top of the hour. Yeah.
nice.
I love that. So talk to me. Cole, do you feel like you're gonna? Uh, I'm wondering if you notice the pocket watch, look at the pocket watch, handle the pocket watch. Like, is there something like I'm sort of picturing a scene where it's like you hear this thing dinging, so you go to kind of check out why is the watch making this noise?
Well, I think it dinged as I was driving over to the campus.
Yes.
And then when I park up, it dings again. And I'm like, and they just reach into the glove compartment, shake it, look at it. And then as I'm like turning back to the car, then, you know, Cole. And I'm just like, oh, slip it into my pocket, you know, and
Nice.
close the car door and walk away. And then I think as the camera, you know, turns around, there's just Casey stood on the other side of the car behind me, like as I
Yes.
walk away.
I do feel like the audience of this TV show can see Casey. So
Oh,
you are
yeah.
manifest, even though Cole can't yet see Casey, the rest of us, the audience can, not the people.
I am going to put it at the last time I'm going to say that, but you so need to watch Randall and Hopkirk because that is the first 2 episodes of the TV show is where no one but the audience can see the ghost.
You can say it as many times as you want. It's just the 3 of us. So
Yeah, I will. I did have this all pirated. Never mind the record. I did have it all pirated. I don't care who knows this. It's not in print anymore. I will see if I've still got it, and I will hook you
all
up
right.
with it if I can.
Yeah, I looked for the DVD and it's like cost prohibitive, you know, to kind of get it.
It's a DVD. It's going to be right. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about what this college campus looks like. Um, uh, uh, Stephen, do you have? Is it kind of a spread out campus? Is there kind of a quad? What are you thinking in terms of what this place looks like?
Yeah, I think it's very self-contained. It's a spread out campus. There's a lot of different low buildings. Almost none of the buildings are multiple heights, except maybe for the chapel that's on site.
Nice.
Um, and it's a little bit opulent. Whenever you go to pull in your auto, you see like the some nice, I don't know, walls with like the academy name emblazoned on them, and there's some ivy growing, but you can see that it's in a little bit of disrepair.
Okay.
Like for like the past, I don't know, 5 or 10 years, you can tell maybe the buildings have a little bit of paint peeling. Some of the landscaping is overgrown or maybe dead, that kind of thing.
Love it. That's great. Uh, and Will, are we at a time of year where there are lots of students around, or is this kind of like during a spring break or a fall break? What do you think?
I think this is ah. I think that this is like one of those shorter breaks.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if you have them in America. Like rather, like it's just like a week or something. So a lot of people still hang around, but then a bunch of people go home, right?
Right.
Like,
so maybe it's Thanksgiving, where usually we just have Thursday and Friday off, but a lot of people kind of take that whole week
yeah,
a bit of a fall break. So
yeah.
okay, so the campus is fairly quiet then.
Which I mainly do because it's hard for me to give framing for breaking into places when a busy university.
Right.
Speaking,
and one day I will tell stories about places that I broke into when I was in college, but that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, when the red dot goes away.
So let's do the Ava scene. She comes up to the car. She seems pretty happy to see you, even though it's been maybe a couple of years since you broke things off. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think it's been a couple of years. I think, we're still like friendly, but you don't like hang around with your exes usually. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
we've never quite got over that sort of slight awkwardness into the
Right.
point of like, let's go for drinks. It's more like kind of, oh, hey, could you help me out with this? Sure.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Have you been to her college before? Have you been here before?
No, I think she was very against that when we were a thing,
Okay.
However, I think that you feel a little bit at home here.
Mm.
And this is coming from Casey. This is where he went to school and he feels very comfortable here. And I think that you're getting this feeling almost as if you know where things are. I feel like I stayed in that dorm over there. That's weird, but yeah.
And I also wonder, Casey, if you had been, you've been back, like she brought you in as a guest lecturer for a class or something like that.
I think I was on the verge of applying for a job here.
Okay.
So I'd come in for an interview, but didn't make it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even though she was really pushing for you, like she had your back.
Yeah.
Cole, I also feel like this is maybe the first time you've really seen Ava since Casey died. So Casey was sort of the initial way you two met, but you two haven't seen each other. Now you've got this mutual friend who's passed away.
Maybe they saw each other at the funeral, but didn't get together,
Right.
didn't speak at that point.
Right. Does that sound okay? Will?
That sounds perfect. I think that at the funeral, Cole felt, like he felt angry when he found out he was dead, that Casey was dead, and he was determined to do something about it. But when the day of the funeral came, he just felt, well, however Casey was feeling at the funeral. You know what I mean? Like, so it was, either way, if Casey was angry, Cole felt devastated. If Casey was devastated at, it's real, I'm dead, what's going on, hopeless kind of thing, Cole felt like that as well. Like, and so he was in no position to actually like speak to people. He was overwhelmed with the feelings of a dead person at their own funeral.
How did you feel at your funeral?
I'm confused. It was like, why did that person come, and what is this, and why am I still here? And
This is it. I tried to talk to someone about like, I'm sorry for your loss, and it just came out as like, what the fuck are you doing here?
That's right.
To a complete stranger who I've never met before. Like, yeah.
That's great. What was there anyone there, Casey, who was particularly surprising to you?
There were people that The thing that was surprising was someone who didn't show up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who didn't show up?
I'm not sure yet. Let me think about that for a moment.
Like a family member, a colleague, one
I
of the
think it would be more along the lines of a colleague, someone that I thought I was closer to but wasn't. Or I thought I was closer to, but they didn't show up. Um, what if this was so it wouldn't necessarily be a partner. Ooh, okay, so what if there was somebody from the force that was looking for, looking to help mentor me and move me along. So this is an older cop who's closer to being retired, and he was looking for a mentee. So he was actively discouraging me from, going back into the university and that kind of thing.
Okay. Interesting. And I wonder if he was afraid for his own life, and that's why he didn't come to the funeral.
Or maybe he did something. I mean, Ava did tell me that he was one of the reasons that his recommendation was one of the reasons I didn't get the job.
Boom. All right. Sorry, just dropping some pictures in. Oops. There he is.
Where are you dropping pictures in?
I added an NPC tab to the character.
Oh, I see that. Okay.
So this was Casey's mentor. He didn't come to funeral. So let's do the conversation with Ava. I think upon Cole's arrival, Ava says, "I was so sorry to hear about Casey. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to chat at the funeral."
Yeah, well, no, it was a bit of a mess at the funeral. I just miss him so much,
I knew you two were friends, but I didn't realize how close you were.
He was a good kid, had my back, and I guess we were closer than a lot of people, and even we realized. And as he says this, I think his hand's just like brushing that coat pocket with the pocket watch in.
Nice moment. She says, "Did you ever figure out how he died?"
I mean, the how was pretty clear. He was stabbed. The why, I'll find out one day.
Wow. Well, speaking of unexpected murders, one of the professors in the archaeology department was found dead in her office, and I don't know. The cops seem to think it was foul play, but they're not really getting to the bottom of it. So I wonder if you can help us out with this.
Sure, Ava.
I think you could have. Can I interject a couple of feelings and stuff like that?
I was going to suggest that, I think with the emotional stuff, like you feel free to just jump in and say like what that comes out across,
So I think whenever she says that the local cops, what they're doing, you get this feeling that the local cops, there's an antagonist relationship there, and they're like, yeah, smarty pants, you can figure it out on your own.
Okay.
You get that feeling, yeah.
Okay. Meaning they, the local cops sort of resent her as a criminology.
Sort of. They're like, oh yeah, you're not a real cop. You can't really search your own thing because you figure things out by books, and we're out there on the street every day, that kind of thing.
We have our whole 6-hour training thing, and you think it takes 2 years. Yeah.
So she brings you to the office, but as you are all walking along there, Casey, you're sort of looking around the campus, and you see a groundskeeper, and they are raking leaves. It's fall in what I imagine to be New England, and he looks up and he makes eye contact with you, and it turns out this is a ghost of a former, what appears to be a former groundskeeper, and he just sort of fixes you with a stare and then goes back to his raking, which you now realize is having no effect on the leaves around him.
I'm seeing the rake kind of pass through
Right.
the leaves.
Yes.
I think this is the first ghost I've seen,
Okay. Nice.
and the first time someone's ever interacted with me. And I think I head off in that direction. And I'm like making a beeline for it. And we can see, on screen, we see in the background, you know, Casey's walking purposefully towards this groundkeeper. And we're seeing a look of his face of intent. And we see behind Ava and Cole kind of walking along towards a different building. And as I come up close to where that groundskeeper was, the camera kind of switches back around, and all you see is kind of the rake lying there on the ground with some leaves through it. And I kind of look around real carefully, and then I think I feel kind of a tug,
Okay.
and I'm pulled back towards where Casey and Ava are.
Okay. So the groundskeeper kind of has disappeared.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you look, and when you look back, the groundskeeper is just gone.
Yeah.
Nice. And now
And all that's left is kind of the rake, but I don't know what. Yeah.
Right. Nice. Okay. Cole and Ava, you all go up into this professor's office in the archaeology building. I'm going to call her. Oh, I didn't come up with a name for my victim. Let's call her
Ellen. Sorry, you go ahead. I've just got that fancy name generator right in front of me.
Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, Ellen Pace.
Ellen Pace. Love it. All right. Professor Ellen Pace. Close to Ellen Page, but different.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and so you are now in the office. There are a couple of beat cops and I guess kind of forensics people standing around there. It's a really small office. She was not full professor yet, and you see her lying there. How did she die? Is there a visible means of death, or is it kind of mysterious?
Decapitation.
What? Decapitation?
Yeah.
Okay. Is her head like clean off?
Clean off.
All right, sweet. We've gone to an R rating. I love it.
No. It's too much. It's too much. It's too much. It's she's dead in a
How about you can see some flecks of like foam or spittle on the edge of the mouth, so it's probably poison or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing with the decapitation was just me going like, how did she die? Well, I'd go for the most gonzo thing possible, right? Like, she spontaneously combusted in the middle of a thing. But no, I agree with that one, the mystery. She's dead, suspected poisoning.
Nice. Okay. So why don't we pause there? I've got 8 past the hour. Why don't we reconvene at let's do 7 minutes. So 15 past the hour, and we will continue our mystery. Sound okay?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'll see you in 7.
How about yourself? Are you playing anything after this?
No. It's for better or for worse easier for me to cut in to my work time than it is to cut into my family time. So
yeah.
But I have a bunch of home games that I play on the weekends anyway. So. All right, friends. So Sam and I came up with this sort of process for driving the mystery. If you want to look in the rules, it's towards the end in the Game Master section, but the idea is I describe as the GM a mysterious event, and then you all pose one or more questions about the event, and then your investigation is essentially the next scene or two are meant to try and answer that question, and the answer to that question becomes a clue. And then we can use that clue to either generate a new question or use it sort of during the course of the investigation. And when you use a clue, and we can be generous for how clues are used, that's when we mark it, and then those marked clues allow us to solve the mystery. So I think if we can get to 2 used clues, that'll be a +2 to your roll, and that should be sufficient to at least give you a pretty good chance of solving the mystery. So we've described this mysterious scene now, and it's up to you to kind of pose a question about the scene. The scene, remember, is a bunch of cops standing around, dead body, maybe also the head of security from the college is there, and the grad student that maybe found Professor Pace dead there. So I will leave it to you two to write a question or think of a question that you want to try and answer. Steve, you're back. You're back.
Okay, that's weird. I'll start with, is it obvious how, is it obvious if someone gained access? Specifically, do we see an open window, or was the door forced in any way, or was there no obvious way, so it must have been someone who had access to them already?
Okay, so the question is, did someone force access to the professor?
Are there any signs of intruders in any way?
Let's do it like that.
Because she was poisoned, right? So
yeah. Any other?
It's not like someone stabbed her here, but was there anything out of the ordinary? Were there any intruders on campus, kind of thing?
Or it could be as simple as, could you see scuff marks on the window, or something like that, where someone came in and slipped something in her coffee or whatever it was. Yeah.
So, are there any other kind of burning questions that you have? Any other leads you want to follow?
Who killed her? You really putting that one down?
I did.
mean,
yeah. The one that occurred to me is exactly how did she die?
Yeah, that is definitely on my. What was it exactly that killed her,
right.
Kind of thing. Yeah, and given that she was found in the morning, one assumes, why was she here?
That's great. Okay, cool. So which one of these do you want to try and answer? How do you go about trying to answer one of these questions?
So checking it out is the way you develop clues in this, right?
That's right.
Like the way you investigate. And that is a move that you do together.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I feel like at the emotional level, it's almost like we're both controlling the same character to a great extent. Like, and I know that's come through in the way that we've got the emotional manifestation in the things, but like, I think that it's very much, whereas maybe Cole's first instinct would be to go speak to people and go around. He can't help but feel like what Casey would have felt, which was check out the scene, make sure kind of access entry points, cameras, that kind of thing. Like Casey was always more about the details than the people,
I think that's exactly right. And I think that you feel an urge and you actually find yourself starting to take pictures of the
Mm.
body and, maybe the telltale spittle or something like that, thinking, I can look this up later. I'm like, I don't look this up.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. I'll just ask Jeff down at the precinct to send me their crime scene pictures. Christ. Like, yeah.
Before we roll, Casey, you also have the inhabit manifestation style. So in addition to sort of transmitting feelings, you could possess an object, and maybe you're sort of feeling more confident about possessing objects. Is there anything you see in the scene that you want to draw Cole's attention to? I'm just putting that out there as a possible option for you.
Yeah, I think that there's a cold cup of coffee that's sitting on the desk there, and I want to inhabit that. So you actually see, um, no one else really sees this, but I think Cole sees a little bit of steam come from that coffee.
Mm.
But whenever you reach out and kind of, I guess with a gloved hand, touch the side of the coffee, it's cold. So that draws your attention to it. Maybe
Yeah.
that's a source of something.
Okay, so it's Cole. Are you? I think we'll use the inhabit attunement. We're trying to answer the question of how did she die? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll roll the check it out. Your attunement level right now is -1, so you're rolling with a -1 on that roll, which I think makes sense because the sort of nudges that Casey is giving are kind of vague. You are not Cole sure why you're feeling the need to take pictures, so there's sort of this kind of ambiguity, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Though both of you are in the scene, we only need one roll. I've got a roll with me link here. I'll put it in the chat. Who's going to do that roll?
I would like to offer that to Stephen, please. Yes.
Do you mind if I roll in person?
Not at all. Go for it.
So I'll roll with a -1. I rolled a 4, so -1 is 3.
Cool. Stephen, I think you should pick one from the manifestation list. So this is since you're using the inhabit attunement, you pick one from that move that you selected, the artifact move.
Okay. Oh, I'm going to choose the object's control goes haywire, causing a ruckus.
Okay.
I think what actually happens on screen is Cole's just reached out and kind of touched the side of the cup, and it's cold, and you're like, well, that's odd. And I think you lean down to inspect to see if you can see any like coffee or anything like that on the body, and you are definitely away from the coffee cup, and that's whenever it tips over and the coffee spills across the desk.
Oh, nice.
Mm. And I think that I'm like a good meter away from the table, right? But everybody else is looking in the opposite direction, so they all turn around to see it, and they just look at Cole like, "What the hell?
What did you do, man?"
Yeah, and I'm like, "What? Hey, it wasn't me."
The detective who's on site, do you know this person? Do you know the detective?
Yeah, I know everybody.
You know everybody.
Yeah.
Let's figure out who this detective is.
Detective Melton.
I'm going to make it Melton.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's make it.
Obviously, I have no attachment to any of these names. I just have the screen right here.
I'm just trying to find a good picture that's not too creepy. Stock photography is always something just a little off about it.
I always find it's the insanely cheery look of most people.
Yeah. Well, or the very obvious, like if I'm looking for a woman detective, slightly too sexualized.
Hmm.
It doesn't need to be like this. All right, here we go. So we will call her Detective Jane Melton. There she is. And she says to you, Floyd, what are you doing over there?
Your job.
Well, why don't you move out and make some room for us professionals? You are just taking up all kinds of space here.
He looks around at the empty classroom, which has got space for like 50 people.
I was imagining it was her office. So
Oh, her office. Okay, so it's smaller. Yeah, okay, yeah. He looks around and says, well, I mean, well, you've already sent CSI through here, I guess. I mean, how many of you does it take?
we're still processing this crime scene, and this is obviously going to be a high-profile or a difficult case, and you're just here making it even more difficult. How did you get in here anyway?
Jeff let me in.
I'm sorry, I missed it. You pointed at the professor.
No, I pointed at one of the beat cops.
Oh, okay.
Who didn't let me in at all. But now no one's going to believe that he didn't let me in. So.
All right. Well, I'm going to need you to clear out of here so we can finish doing our work. Why don't you go take your little investigation somewhere else?
No problem, Jane. No problem. And hey, Pace is a friend of a friend. Make sure this is done right.
Sure, Floyd. We take every case really seriously. Come on. Who do you talk to?
That's not what I've heard, Jane.
Get out. Do you want to try and answer any of these other questions while you're getting shoved out?
Do you have those questions written down? Oh, there we are. Any signs of intruders? How did she die? Why was she here?
Yeah.
How did she die? Well, at least tell me you've done a toxicology report.
Yeah, actually, fortunately, because this school has a forensics lab, we were able to send a sample over to the lab in the school. But don't let me catch you going over there, man.
No, I mean, I would never go over to the lab. You know me. I do what I'm told. And he smiles.
She turns away from you and leans back over the body and doing her investigation.
Cool.
Casey, what sort of feelings are you kind of giving off now?
So I think it's indignation at being kicked out, because Casey would never be kicked out. He would never mess with the crime scene and has never been asked to leave. That's kind of his job, and it's like there's a little bit of indignation and failure in there. I think at this point, Casey, I think Casey's picking up a little bit of Cole's interaction, what he would normally do. And Casey kind of puts together, okay, this is weird, but I'm kind of going to go off on my own. And I'm going to step out and so I can't physically manifest it. Is that right?
That's right.
I
mean, I assume you exist in the ghost world,
mm-hmm.
right? And I assume you can look around here.
Right. what I was thinking of was I'm going to mess up some of the bushes or leaves or something like that, um, simply to see if I could get the gardener that we saw
Oh, nice.
before, the groundsman, to come find me. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look around the grounds. I think I know there's a, near the quad, there's an area where the wind blows. There's 4 buildings around, and the leaves gather really badly in that area. And it's where freshmen will often go, and they'll just kind of, jump in the leaves or something like that. So I'm going to go to that area,
I feel
and
okay.
I'm sorry, and I'm going to go looking for the groundsman.
Okay. Since you can inhabit objects, my assumption is you can maybe inhabit some leaves and move those around if you want to. But either way, I feel like this is get it done,
Okay.
where you're acting alone to further the investigation, um, and basically to try and discover a lead. So you've described your goal as trying to encounter the groundskeeper, right?
Yes. Hmm.
So in order to do this, you roll and you subtract the number of stress marked because of the 6 minus. You took you took 1 stress on that
Right.
previous.
So I'll roll that again. Let's see. I rolled snake eyes.
Oh, nice.
So I rolled a 1. Yeah.
So we didn't do this before, but this is a good time to introduce this mechanic. I really liked in Brindlewood Bay and now I can't remember what they're called, but you can mark crowns to bump up a roll. So in this game, it's histories, and you can mark a history to bump up a roll from a 6 minus to a 7 to 9, or from a 7 to 9 to a higher level. So to mark a history, you can pick one of those 6 that are there, and then you sort of describe a little bit of your background. Would you like to mark a history?
Yeah. Let me read through them and see which one applies here.
Okay. They don't have to be immediately relevant, but you can do that if you like.
Okay. So I'll just mark the first one, which is essential experience you had whenever you were alive.
Okay.
And I think, number one, does stress still happen there for that failure?
No. So now we're treating it as a 7 to 9 result.
Okay. And I think, let me describe the experience. I went back to this place because whenever I was a freshman, I jumped in the leaves, and the groundskeeper, at that time, who was a different groundskeeper than this one, but the groundskeeper would always run us off. And, it was a very pleasurable and stress relieving, sensation. And I'm hoping this will bring the groundskeeper to us. Yeah.
Nice. Um, so you accomplish your goal. The groundskeeper shows up. The move also says you need to pick one of the options from below.
Um, I'm going to say you create an advantage for yourself or your partner.
Okay. Do you have a sense of what that might be? Maybe we should figure that out after you've talked to the groundskeeper.
Yeah, I think that would be something. Maybe the groundskeeper is a witness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you trying to answer one of these lead questions? So I'm wondering if maybe he saw an intruder.
That's very possible.
So he shows up and you kind of hear him. He just sort of manifests, and you sort of see him kind of raking leaves. He's mumbling under his breath about the kids who are always messing up his piles. And you see something on his coveralls that says Jones on it. And the uniform is not one that looks very familiar. So clearly he was one, he may be from like a much earlier generation of this campus. And so he's standing there just raking leaves and mumbling. What do you do?
And you know, I get up and I say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause such a mess. Um, I can help if you'd like. What would have you seen any other troublemakers around here?"
He's like, are you investigating the murder of that professor, that lady professor?
I'm trying to find out what happened. Yeah.
It was a bad thing. That was another another professor works on this campus who I saw going in there.
Oh, yeah? Do you know their name?
Um, I don't know. I can't keep track of their names.
They change so often.
I see all kinds of people coming in and out of this place over the years.
Why are you still here?
That's a good question.
Can I suggest something?
Yeah.
I've still got work to do. He scrapes up the things. Look at this. You look at this place. It's a mess. I still got work to do.
Yeah, still got work to do. There's no one taking care of it anymore. I'm also wondering if he died in an accident that the campus tried to cover up just to get dark.
I was just thinking Protestant work ethic.
There's that too.
And I think, and Casey's like, "Oh, I understand that you still had work to do. We're kindred spirits of a kind."
Yeah, leave me alone. Leave me alone now.
Yeah, and I appreciate your help with this. And I'll do my best to make sure that we don't make any more messes around here.
Well, good luck to you. There's new kids coming in here all the time, and this is a big tradition for them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a clue now, just so we can see how that works. That another professor entered the office. And I'm going to erase any signs of intruders. So now that lead has been sort of followed, and you now have a clue.
So I put in the leads who was the other professor.
Perfect. I love it.
And then clues. So is it useful, do you think, in your conception of the game, it's useful to have those two things separate? Or because that is a lead and a clue, you know what I mean? Like clues almost seem like leads in this game as well.
Yeah, I love what you did there. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we have it in this little flowchart as or, but I think it could be and. It does both of those things. It creates a lead and answers the question. So.
Because in Brindlewood Bay, clues are kind of floating and you have to make them work, right? They don't really lead you in a direction unless you make it happen. Whereas in this game, it seems more like the clues are leads in themselves because they're not, they're not like kind of generated from a book kind of thing. Yeah. Okay.
And I don't know what kind of scene Cole had planned next, but I think that to communicate this list, I think wherever they are, they see a list of professors, like on a cork board, or maybe in a book or something like that they're drawn to, and that's how the communication happens about that there was another professor, and they get that clue.
Actually, I had this one idea where there's a faculty directory, a printed one. Apparently, it's still the 20th century, and in the trash. And so I'm wondering if maybe wherever Cole is, you can manifest in the trash.
Manifest in the trash, and this wadded up directory kind of flops out, and you pick it up nonchalantly, and oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, that might be useful.
Yeah.
Like just kind of like abstractly, like I was wondering if this might be a point to try and focus on our attunement together to see what might happen.
Oh, nice.
Just to play test that rule.
Yeah, please. What is that? What does that look like?
Well, when you focus on the attunement between the investigator and the ghost, describe how you do it and roll. Right now, as we're playing it so far, I do not focus on you because if I do, it will be like, what would Casey be doing in this situation, right? And that would be me focusing. Whereas I think this is a case of Casey wants to get that information to Cole, like solidly, and it's through that exact interaction we've just described.
If I can add, that's exactly right. So the trash kind of rolls out, and as you pick up the directory, that's whenever the alarm on the pocket watch goes off.
Oh yeah, I
And you
love
have to
it,
reach
yeah.
in and kind of turn it off, and you're like, crazy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will, do you want to roll that? And
Yes.
I think you're taking a +1 here.
Yes. Yeah. I think we're both focused on it, in as much as Cole can be focused on it, not knowing that it exists. A 10. Woo.
Sweet. So you bump your attunement level. I will give you the honors of checking the next box. So yeah, perfect. So next time you roll, you'll roll with a +0 on either of those attunement moves. Cole, where's the investigation taking you? What are you doing to answer one of these questions?
I mean, what would Rose do? Definitely go with a place that she's been told not to go to by any means necessary. And you know what? The really good thing is that, the toxicology, the lab here. Well, I know a guy. And the person I know though is I think Eva Nelson, the Professor Nelson, can get me in there, can get me sorted, can get me into the back office, because one of her modules is all about making toxicology reports make sense, like in criminology.
Yeah, I think maybe she's standing outside of that the victim's office when you're shooed away, and she just sort of gives you a look like, "Come with me, like, come on, I can make this happen." So
yeah, and as we're walking, I'm flicking through I'm scrolling through the faculty thing, and I'm like, "Oh, there she is." Oh, there you are, Eva.
So are we moving right to the toxicology lab? And what are you doing there?
I think that I think I would like to frame it ideally as that the lab itself is currently locked and empty, but Professor Nelson has the key, which is what gives us access to this lab and to the reports. The lab's copy of the report, not the police's copy of the report, is still held within the room. So I'm investigating looking over the results with Eva as as it's empty currently at the moment.
Okay. Is this get it done? You doing this by yourself, or has Casey manifested here?
So I think he's doing it on his own. Casey is focused in on that list. I think that the list of professors that you're looking have like little headshots, and Ava's headshot is like an old one. Like she's much younger, and it's a little bit funny. Yeah. So you have a visual representation of the other professors, and it's a kind of a small school, but I think I'm focused on that.
So does that mean you're humorous, or you're attracted, or you are like, what is the emotion that you're projecting to Cole? Or am I misunderstanding what you're getting at?
No, I think the emotion projected to Cole is more a look of intense study.
Okay.
A little bit of, I need to figure out something about this.
Okay.
I keep on trying to look at the report, and then eyes flicking back over to the thing, and I absent-mindedly I'm turning a page and then a page, and then you've got Casey, like the audience can see that Casey is like stood leaning over it, getting impatient, with like Cole's absent-minded, like just flicking through this thing on the side every now and again. So one thing I wasn't sure about is, so get it done, you discover a lead or an obstacle, but we got a clue last time.
Yeah, I think I broke the rule there.
Yeah.
It just seemed to fit really nicely with the narrative.
Yeah, I was more a case of like, maybe that's the thing that needs to be tweaked in this, is the whole, you know what I mean? Like whether there needs to be such a distinction between the two or whatever, right? Like, who knows? But So what do I do? Is it get it done? Power through this report, and I roll with advantage because I am using my check it out with Ava Nelson.
Well, yeah, and I'm wondering if Casey's helping you sort of by providing this emotional connection. Is this actually an attunement roll, a check it out roll, which you would still get advantage on? What do you think?
I think we'd established that Casey was can kind of like I've got my own lead and I'm chasing it down.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's also this strange something that's strange to Cole, which is the closeness of Ava. Ava, I think, is very familiar with you and is very close, and Casey's a little uncomfortable with this. So I think what we see on camera is Ava and you are kind of poring over the toxicology report, and Casey, is kind of shying away and stepping over on the other side of the two of you. Like, I'm not. What's going on here? And I think he kind of glances over, and there's a little bit of. I think you get a sense of what's going on here. Is she?
I get that kind of like slight anxiety, you know what I mean? Like that sort of nervous excitement as like our hands brush as we go past the thing, and it's nothing to us whatsoever, but to you, it's like, yeah.
Okay, so you want to roll get it done. You're gonna subtract 1 for the stress that you collectively have, but you're rolling with advantage. Is what I'm taking away from this. Great.
Yes. So -1, right, on the roll?
Yep.
No, it's 0 on the roll because we just escalated our attunement. Sorry.
Are we rolling the get it done move? Which is
yes, we are getting it done. Yeah, sorry. Okay. So minus stress. Sorry, you had it right. I had my stress. I think that's okay. Confused. I don't know why I did 3d6 -1 because it'll do it all in one go. Anyways, that is a best of 6, sadly.
Yeah, so that's 7 -1 is a 6. Do you also want to mark a history to bump that up to a 7 to 9?
Yeah, why wouldn't you? Especially in a one shot where we have loads of histories.
Right, exactly.
How I was an imperfect partner to Ava, and I think it was simply that she wanted, like grown-up serious commitment. She's a professor. She wanted dinner parties. She wanted all that stuff and like career progression and things like that. And none of that has ever interested Cole at all. He was a detective purely because he wanted to solve crimes, not because he wanted to get paid or anything like that.
Nice.
And that's why he became a PI afterwards.
Love it. So the result of that is you accomplish your goal. We didn't really articulate exactly what the goal was. Was it to try?
Well, it was to understand. It was to how did she die?
Okay.
The toxicology report. I think that like as I'm going through it, and Nelson is like calling out some particular markers right to me and things like that, and that's where our hands are brushing across each other, and that's when you see Cole blushes suddenly, and then he's like, "What the fuck?"
I think I'm gonna make something up, and you tell me if this is okay. I'm gonna give you a clue that a poison fungus was put in her coffee, or she ingested a poison fungus. Let's do it like that.
Yeah. Poison fungus.
And you pick one from that list as well.
Which list? The one below, the take stress
under the get it done. Yes.
Oh, I see. I avoid taking stress.
Okay. So we won't add any stress, but maybe what I'll do is say that you do attract some attention. So I think the toxicology professor comes back, or the scientist who works in this lab comes back, and he's like, What? Professor, what's her name? Professor Ava. Professor Nelson, what are you doing here? Who is this? Who is this man? Do I need to call security?
Hey, buddy, what's the problem? I mean, why would you call security? This is the professor. Who are you?
Yeah, but this is a secure area, and she is not really authorized to be here without one of us here, especially on an active case that's affected this campus.
Oh, sorry. Cole Floyd.
I don't
Detective Cole Floyd.
That's fine. Where's the police detective?
Investigating the case.
Well, this report was meant to go to them, not to you.
You mean this is the only copy? You haven't given them the report yet?
It just finished running.
Jeez. What kind of operation are you running here, Nelson?
Hart goes to kind of pick up. I'm sorry, I added an NPC,
Yeah.
Professor Edgar Hart, toxicologist. And he picks up a phone to call security.
Oh, well. We're leaving anyways, Professor Hart. You know, I was going to take this report over to Detective Melton. We go way back. But I'll just let her know how helpful you've been in the case so far.
All right. And he puts the phone down and he's sort of gesturing for you to leave the lab.
I was wondering if perhaps now that there's another professor and we've been searching through the book, if that book has flipped open on Professor Hart's page as we are discussing, and if maybe Casey wanted to, you know, because we know it's a professor, right? That's all we know, is that there was a professor that was Sin. And I can think of this offers as an opportunity to chase up a lead.
Like, who is the other professor?
Yeah. I mean, we have to, you know, maybe it's not Hart, but we have to start somewhere, right? Like, I feel this is one of those things where, like, Casey's got the clue. Do we want to do this as a moment together, or do you want to separate? And
I think it's better together. I think that you just interacted with Hart, and I think that we see the page kind of flip over to Hart as you know, we're scanning the information to see is there anything in his bio that might connect him back to the archaeology of Professor Pace.
So how would we do that? Because I'm wondering, like, emotional manifestation, the ghost can transmit feelings to the investigator, right? So you can do, you know, like, I'd get that strong feeling of, like, you need to look at this guy. You know what I mean? Like, why I suddenly feel very suspicious of Hart, whereas before I was defensive. Now I'm very, like, suspicious, and I want to know more about him, because it occurs to me that, why is he here? You know?
Maybe he's not a toxicology, or maybe this isn't really his lab, or maybe he was trying to avoid the report getting out.
Yeah, all those questions clash.
As you'd see in any cop show, you leave, right, and Professor Nelson's coming with you, and you just take that thing and flip it over to make sure he is who he thinks he is in the directory.
Oh yeah. Double check it. So yeah, what would that be? I guess that would be our find a clue. Our check it out. We will check out the professor.
Right.
And it feels as though we're checking it out rather than directly confronting him here and, like, Columbo styling it. We're going away and, like, going through that. I go back and I pick up that directory, and you can see, like, the audience can see Casey, like, finger pointing exactly where Cole's finger starts to point, like, as he traces down the page.
Love it. So you're going to roll check it out with your attunement.
Would our ghost like to roll?
Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah. 2d6. I would like to use a clue.
Okay.
Another professor entered the office.
Okay, perfect.
Now it's been used. So we can use it later as well. So that's a with advantage, isn't it, if you use a clue? Right, Dan?
That's a good question. And roll with advantage, yes.
Yeah. 12.
Nice. Wow.
So
roll. Okay, so we are on. So you get a lead, or you can bump a lead into a clue, and you increase attunement. So I'll give you the honor, so you can bump up your attunement level, and that gives you a new manifestation style. Do you want to answer this question? Who is the other professor, or do you want to get a new lead?
I want to answer the question of the who was the professor.
Okay, so I think it wasn't Hart, but you see one of Hart's close colleagues. Maybe you get the feeling that they've published papers together or something like that, who has some expertise. Well, actually, let me ask this question. Do we want to try and create a connection between the victim and this professor, or just sort of create a connection to the poison, right? The mode of death.
To the poison, I think.
Yeah, I was thinking there's like a biology professor who specializes in poison plants and poison funguses. This is the second game, Will, that we have played that involves poison funguses. Maybe
I mean,
a third game.
It's inevitable.
So yeah, so I think you see a biology professor there, who we will name Ben Williams.
And can we actually say the reason this comes into mind and the reason this makes sense is you step out and you're headed back and you're flipping through the program and you see Professor Hart's in there. He's part of toxicology, all that kind of information. But then another professor rounds the corner and you can see like a name tag on him, and it's the one that Dan just mentioned. And he is in mid-sentence, and you instinctively know that's where Hart was he was talking to this professor. And that's why he had left the room after the toxicology had made. You're putting all of this together that, this guy was talking to Hart and is headed back to talk to Hart in the toxicology area. And you look up this guy's name and can see that he's the biology specialist.
Yeah, I like that. And I think that, like we flash back to some of those scenes, as canny-eyed viewers would have noticed that those two were talking in the quad while you were talking to the groundskeeper.
Oh,
that
yeah.
kind of thing, I think we can always retrospectively say, and the ghost saw something that now makes sense in this scene. Yeah.
So I think this is a good. Let's take another break. We're at let's 1 minute past the hour, so let's reconvene at 10 past, or 1 minute before. Let's reconvene at 10 minutes past the hour. Sound okay? Cool. I'll see you in 10 minutes.
Just you probably want the rest of it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that. A chase happened. They took him down. They're in his office. We're getting the next clue. That's my summary of what just happened.
Our ghost is now telepathically linked rather than just emotionally linked.
Yes. Yeah. And attunement is now up to 1. Nice. All right. So spoofed email address out from outside the university.
Somebody from outside. Huh. Wonder if Casey has like a catchphrase, like or a mannerism that Cole's starting to adopt. You can see them both like stroking their chin, or maybe like, did Casey wear glasses?
Yes.
Yeah, Cole is like fiddling with a frame that isn't there.
We're trying to push up glasses that are like there's always the.
Yeah.
William says, I am so sorry. I had no idea. And I have no idea why anyone would target Professor Pace. She didn't really make that much of a wave. She was really good professor. Students really liked her. She did a lot of research, archaeological digs overseas, primarily in Latin America. Yeah, I can't even imagine. I feel so badly. I'll go talk to the detectives and let them know what happened.
Yeah. There's no law against being an unwitting accomplice, you understand? It's a good job you ran. It's a good job you ran from me rather than Melton. You wouldn't be walking out of here.
That's true. Yeah, thank you for your understanding, but I know there may be no law, but I did provide the murder weapon, and I do have to pay the price.
We all pay one day, one way or another, friend.
He kind of shuffles off, hangdog.
And I think that you get this image of that's what happens with sloppy paperwork.
That it doesn't say we all pay one way or another. I say like that's why paperwork is so important.
That's right.
I'm very much enjoying role playing another character. Role playing a character. Like, yeah. Okay. The email, spoofed email from outside the university. I think we now have to look at. So we know who took. We don't know. So these leads. Why did Williams didn't kill Pace? Was that sort of theory that were going off?
Right.
Why was she here so early in the morning? That's the thing to do, because I feel like what we need to now look at is the victim and the possible motivations around her. So who outside of the university, or who doesn't necessarily use their outside, they used a spoofed email to maybe hide their own tracks, because it's hard to use you can't just create a university email, it's assigned to you, right. Whereas you can create another one. So that doesn't mean it's outside the university. That means that it's just not identifiable necessarily.
Okay.
So we need to find out the motivation. Who had any kind of disagreement with her, perhaps on her expeditions, who's maybe jealous, an artifact, maybe because of the Brindlewood influence. I'm like, she brought something back from Latin America that somebody wanted.
I like that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
There's also There's also the issue, why would someone go to so much trouble to put a poison fungus in there? Are they trying to frame someone from the biology department? I mean, that's an unusual kind of murder weapon.
Why poison? Yeah, I feel like Cole's feeling about poison is that it's the passive aggressive way of killing someone. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to get your hands dirty, you don't have to do it, and it provides a sort of barrier between you, like the standard assumption. But I agree with you that they must be in some way knowledgeable about these funguses in the first place. And they knew about the whole, there's somebody who's connected to the university in some way because they knew how to get the poison. So we need to identify somebody with a reason to kill Professor Pace. That's our key point. And then those other aspects are the things that help us narrow it down from a larger pool. Our lead is why was she killed?
Okay.
And I think the lead, the digs, because that's where I think I'd like to take it. To the digs, to her archaeology work. Like, who knows? Maybe it's just she didn't put a name down on a paper or some bullshit. Like,
right.
You said it would count towards my grad paper, but you didn't put my name on. I'll never get my degree if you do this.
This has to do with her work as an archaeologist, because another angle would be she's secured funding and another part of the university has to suffer for it.
Well,
Taking funding away or something like that.
yeah, I agree that would, it's definitely tied to her archaeology work, whether it's the funding or whether it's they found a smooth brass icon that is warm to touch kind of thing.
Okay.
So yeah, how do we follow up that lead?
Well, you want to go investigate her office to maybe try and get a sense of what she was doing in there? Or talk to the detective to ask her if she learned about what she was doing there so early in the morning?
Yeah, you know what? Let's go back to an NPC. Let's go back to Melton, maybe. Yeah, I feel like Melton's someone who's known to both Casey and Cole as well. You know.
There was also the grad student who found her. So you could also, if you wanted to do someone else besides a police person, you could do that. So I'll leave it up to you.
Let's go with the grad student just to throw, like you say, just to spice up a bit. I'd also like to, you know, one of my favorite parts about murder mystery stuff is when you show up to the police at the end and go, well, we solved a case for you, detective.
So we will come up with a grad student. Let's say she's kind of still in the archaeology building, in maybe the lounge in the archaeology building. There's a police officer with her, kind of watching over her, and her name is Eliza Mencken.
Just occurs to me now that actually with my like playbooky move type thing, I could be like, I know Mouse, the hacker, who can get us straight into her emails and reverse trace this spoofed IP address back to whatever. Nice. That would be a possibility, wouldn't it? I guess. Yeah. But let's go with this grad student. It just was me thinking out loud about how you could do that. Yeah, that move is actually really powerful because it just lets you invent an NPC with the skill set that you need to do anything.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we should tone that down, but also it's fun. Like I just, you know.
And there's always a cost. I mean, it's not like Mouse is going to do this for free, right? What are you going
to
get them?
Yeah, it would certainly, but you know, like the Brindlewood Bay NPC explosion from mystery to mystery would be huge by the end of 2 sessions.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So we go to what was her name again? You said it
Eliza
was
Mencken.
Eliza Mencken. Cool. And when we go to visit her, I'm bringing coffee.
Okay. She says, "Thank you. Who are you?"
Well, my name is Cole. I'm a friend of Professor Nelson. You know, she was close with Professor Pace. Used to be a detective. Just here to help out.
You used to be?
Yeah. Now I'm private. Slide over my card.
Oh. Okay. Well, I told the police everything already.
Yeah. Now maybe you can try telling someone who will know what to make of it, right?
I guess so. I mean, I came here. I wasn't planning on coming in early, but when I looked on our group's Slack, I saw that she was logged in, and I was like, "Oh, maybe she's at the office." So I'll go. I had some questions for her about paper I'm working on. So I thought this would be a good time. It was weird, you know. Usually she doesn't come into the office so early, especially after getting back from a trip. She just got back from a dig, and when I came in, she was dead.
She just got back from a dig.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did anybody else from the university go with her on the dig?
Oh yeah, she always brings 2 or 3 grad students with her. I didn't go on this one. My specialty is Asian archaeology.
Ah, right, Asian archaeology. So south. And was this everybody who wanted to go? Everyone who wanted to go on the dig, go on the dig? So I imagine it's quite like competitive, right?
Yeah, actually, usually she only brings 1 or 2, but this time she brought much of the team. I think the grant that she was working on provided her a lot more funding.
Who else was on the Slack group? You get this flash, of Slack and invite list, and it seems like intuition, but maybe you're not using Slack that often.
Well, I mean, I probably never use Slack as I'm imagining Cole as quite a classic notebook and paper kind of guy. He asks, so do you have the Slack open now? And he points to the laptop that's in front of her.
She's like, I prefer using it on my phone, and she holds up her phone. But it's just got all the professors in archaeology, some anthro, then all the grad students, and we use a separate Slack team for the undergrads, so they don't have access to that. And we were chatting. We've got different channels, for different labs. So.
And what was the last thing that Ellen Pace discussed, on Slack? You said she was active.
Well, no, she didn't post any messages. I guess the last thing she posted was like 10 days ago when she said, I'm off on the dig.
She logged in early. She did whatever, right? Slack's cloud-based. So you can log into anybody. If you log into your phone version of Slack or into your thing, you can see whatever messages are on any of your devices, right? We probably can't get to whatever was on the body. We can maybe get to a different thing, a university computer, perhaps, somehow.
So you want to you want to find her Slack messages? I
want to get onto a Slack, yeah. I know a guy.
Totally.
Yeah, I know. Let's just bring up my thing. I know Ashley Miles, who works in the service desk, the IT service desk here in the university. And I know
we actually, if you don't mind, let's say he's not part of the university. He's like outside, and that's one of the things you'll get him as access to the university.
Yeah, sure. Oh, well, I wasn't going to say the hacker. I was going to go with they just have admin rights to the thing. Anyways,
okay. Okay. Let's do that then. It keeps it more self-contained.
Yeah. And it's that they got busted by those corrupt cops, back in the day, and they were being extorted by them, and took them down. And in fact, it's one of the reasons that Casey got involved in that whole thing, anyways, is because of they were friends or acquaintances even, and they worked in the station. They couldn't believe that they were being told this horrible stuff about people in their precinct.
Did you imagine male or female for Ashley?
I think female.
Okay, yeah. So she's IT support for the university.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the first things that came through was, Casey saw this come through and saw that Ashley was accused of something, and was like, well, that's not normal. I know Ashley, she wouldn't have done this. And then started looking for other discrepancies and feeding them back.
Okay, just to move things along, you're going to go talk to Ashley. Is that?
Yeah, it's mostly a case of whatever we do with Ashley is going to be. Should we just do the dice roll to see how much information we can get out of that Slack? You know what I mean? Out of those messages and that access.
Yeah.
I think that she's actually I'm asking about the Slack and the channels and everything, and she's like, well, everything, all of the user desktops are run through the cloud, so anything that's on her laptop I can get right here.
Perfect.
There's no local storage for security reasons.
So that's a check it out move. How is Your attunement level is at telepathic, which means you can send images or visions, but Casey, you can also occupy objects. So I'm wondering, what does this look like, you two kind of standing over Ashley as she's kind of tapping through to figure out what's going on Pace's Slack?
So I actually think I'm going to Casey's, still getting a feel for how all this works, and says, "Okay, I'm going to check out the computer," and slips into the computer. And I think what we see on screen is like Casey reaches out and puts a hand on the computer itself, and then we see this overwhelming flood of information that's just like, the fire hose has been turned on.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's appearing on the screen.
That's appearing to Casey.
Okay.
As Ashley is kind of trying to filter through.
Okay.
Oh, can I suggest that what it is that Ashley's like, okay, and then clicks slowly, and then it just starts to flicker and speed up and everything, and she looks around at Cole like, I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on, and then like it's just, and then it stops, and it's back, and then Casey's just
we see the
found out whatever
messages
we find it.
kind of scroll through and back, and yeah.
I have this idea that maybe Casey sends an image to Cole that's something sort of unusual, and Cole's like, and maybe it's like, I don't know, it's like Panther or something like that, right? And Cole's like, try doing a search for Panther, right? And so then you type in, or she types in the search term, and you get kind of an interesting set of messages.
Yeah.
that he's writing about.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So why don't you do the roll? We'll see how that plays out.
Should I do that, Stephen?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. We're just rolling 2, aren't we? Here, because I do not have. Oh, it's a spoofed email from outside the university. Can I bring that in?
Sure.
Yeah. So now I have a +4 to that roll on the end. That is a 10.
Nice. So I think based on this, you discover, well, let's talk about it. I think this points to an argument between Pace and someone. And it's clear that this person was angry enough with Pace to probably kill her. So who do we want that? Or your read of it is that this could probably be the killer. So we haven't solved the mystery yet, but
I think this is involving the money, right? Where she got all the extra funding from.
Okay.
And there's an argument about, I'm not getting what I paid for. Why don't you cough it up? And
so not another professor necessarily, but the person who wrote the grant, who wanted something from her, wanted her to steal something or something from this.
Nicholas Hoffman. Yeah, and he wanted this. He paid on the funding, and he demanded that there was going to be artifacts brought back to the museum, to the university. And Professor Pace just wouldn't cross those lines, like wouldn't breach protocol in that fashion.
Let's actually say that this was something that was more indigenous.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have left the native country, and they were trying to get it smuggled back.
Oh, what Pace was trying to retrieve it back. Yeah, I like that entirely. Yeah, entirely like it was, they brought back stuff, and Pace is wanting to do the right thing and go through the proper procedures. But she's not able to do it like publicly because she accepted the money from him in the first place, and it shows that it was a complete conflict of interest, and would get her fired for going around the approved, grant funding procedures.
And this has happened before. This isn't the
Mm.
first time.
Yeah.
So I was looking for Nicholas Hoffman. I want to make sure I didn't lose any details. I'd imagined when you said it, I'd imagined Hoffman was the dean, and that maybe
That's fine by me. Yeah.
the dean was trying to get these to get more funding for the department, and because she didn't want to break any ethical standards, he's now out of a possible deal that would infuse more money into the overall department.
So I'd like to offer something as well.
Okay.
If I recall correctly, we said that the name of this university or college was the Nelson Hoffman.
That's right.
Okay. So could this be a descendant that's jealous of Professor Nelson, who is also a descendant, but isn't necessarily a professor? They were put in charge of the museum. So they're trying to build up their reputation by getting more and more artifacts or more and more things to come in, and maybe not being as legal as they should be.
Hey, Archibald Hoffman founded this museum with the proceeds that he got from his great career of adventuring around the world.
Yes.
It's wrong that I'm being held back.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, okay, so you've got a final clue. It's not a used clue, but it is a reasonably good clue, which answers the question, why was she killed, maybe?
Yeah.
And the clue is angry messages with Hoffman.
And I think we have another lead, which is illegal contraband coming back. Items smuggled or something like that.
Did she actually smuggle the items, or did she not?
I think they smuggled it in the sense that the paperwork doesn't match the reality, They're not smuggled in the sense that they were hidden away or whatever, right? But it's like she's a professor, so she finds these things and then she writes the documents of authenticity and blah, blah, blah. And they all get shipped back to the university as intended. And then once they're here, that paperwork then gets retrospectively changed to then be, sold on whatever, more prestigious kind of like, so it's smuggling, but kind of in a less, getting through the Mexican border and more a sense of like illegal.
Hiding it through paperwork, not hiding it through crates or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've posed the lead as, where is the artifact's original paperwork or something like that, or legitimate.
Yeah. I would suggest that maybe in the time and everything, we're up to like a good point to, and enough, certainly I think enough bonuses in the roll to do our theorize move.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've kind of explained the situation, right? In that, so if I was to go over from the top of things, is that Professor Pace was being blackmailed by curator Nicholas Hoffman. She refused to carry on going along with it and threatened to go public to do the right thing. Hoffman was threatening her. She came in early in the morning to try and get ahead of this following a last dig site, which there was the last one. And Hoffman, knowing, because they've been exchanging messages during the time that she was on the dig about this, knew all of this and had already put in the request with Professor Ben Williams spoofing an email for the this toxic thing. And because he came in the morning and slipped it into her favorite travel mug that she keeps in her office. And then when she went and filled it up from the machine, and it only takes a little tiny spore of this to be.
It just looked like coffee grounds. So
So let's actually, where is this scene going to be set? Is this a confrontation of the curator, or is this, an invitation where Cole has brought them like the curator and Melton and Nelson all together in a room to explain, or what do you see?
I like that. I'm wondering if it's while Melton is speaking to the curator, and like we interrupt that scene with our whole shtick, maybe. Um, I'd,
Have you, Cole, gone out of your way to kind of gather everyone together, or you kind of burst in on the curator? And I mean, you don't want the detective to get ahead of you, right?
yeah, I think that, and I think this is one. Maybe we have a scene where like we come to the Casey and Cole are both like are like working this through in their heads, and they're doing it at the same time, and then we get to the point where we're at, and it's like Casey says, we have to tell Melton, and Cole says, I have to find him before Melton. Like at the same time.
Right.
So I think it's that Melton is already speaking to the curator in the museum.
Maybe she's just wrapping up, like there's nothing.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time, Mr. Hoffman. I think that's everything. And then Cole comes in and goes, but is it everything? So shall we roll the solve a mystery?
Go for it.
I guess. And the number of clues we have marked is 4.
And I noticed it's interesting. These numbers are different.
Yes. Yeah, because there's no minuses that you will ever roll. I've seen this happening in other games where it's like all you can do is add. We bump up the numbers one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I suppose that's what Bruno would achieve with this difficulty, isn't it?
Right. Yes.
It sets a minus default from the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. Jamie has a new game out, the Apocalypse Keys game. And there's no minuses. You only kind of add. And so all of the levels are bumped up 1, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then Sam wrote this move, and I really liked how it worked.
Yeah. So +4. Well, we're not as strong as I thought we were because I hadn't clocked that change in the the basic.
Still pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, there's only like 2 or 3 rolls that it's possible to
be a 7.
Right.
No, you're right. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
A
we
1 and a 2,
7.
a 2 and a 1, and a 1 and a 1. So
yeah, that's 3. Yeah. Well, there we go. We did it. It's 12.
12. Okay.
So, what is describe to me how Cole kind of approaches the walking through of all of this? Like, are you kind of pacing and lecturing? Are you kind of pointing down at the curator? How does that? What does that scene look like?
I think it's like, but is it everything, Mr. Hoffman? I got some very interesting conversations between you and Miss Pace. Something about a panther. Does it ring any bells? Any whistles?
And he's like, oh no. The panther refers to one of these artifacts, I guess.
Yeah. And I'm sure if we check all of the paperwork of the new items you've got behind you, that'll all check out. I'm sure we'll also find that Professor Pace is the one who signed off on all of them. And well, coffee, anyone? And he hands over the thing to.
And I think that basically, whenever you point out the paperwork, there's this stack of paperwork that's kind of spread out that the curator and Melton have been discussed. And I think whenever you came in, Melton was like, it looks like everything's in order. And that's whenever you hear Casey kind of whisper in your ear, and Cole goes, well, there's a discrepancy between, and pulls out a couple of pages and says, there's an issue here where this doesn't line up. And I'm sure if we went back through previous, dig sites, we would find more of these.
Nice. I think we're at the end. Is there any other scenes you all want to narrate? Is there a reconciliation between Cole and Eva, or does Cole realize that maybe he needs to stay away from her, given
I
his attachment?
I was wondering if like either it's like the last bit before we go, and is there a thing, whatever Casey has always wanted to say to the professor, and has never been, was never brave enough in life or whatever, right? And it's gonna, like, as Cole's just like, yeah, it's crazy kind of thing, and he's feeling kind of like no longer anxious and anxiety around it, and suddenly he'll just blurt out what Casey was supposed to say to Professor Nelson.
I think that, as Professor Nelson's thanking you, thank you so much for coming in. I knew that you could get to the bottom of it before the rest of these people, and I think she probably says something along the lines of, I really wish, I guess I'm missing Casey. And I think that's whenever the blurt happens, which is, I kind of, it's something along the lines of, I feel like we didn't get to spend enough time together, and I wonder what could have been. Right?
Yeah,
It's so good.
and I think Cole's like, yeah, we never got to spend enough time together, and I'll always wonder about what could have been. Never got to tell you how I really feel. And then he's like, and I think, Professor Nelson, like, go.
And I think, she looks a little bit shocked,
Right.
and that's whenever the pocket watch goes off and gives you an excuse, like the alarm does, and gives you an excuse to leave if you want.
Yeah, or just like that exact thing, but Professor Nelson is just like really touched and like reaches out a hand to Cole and like holds his hand, and for her it's a very tender moment. For Cole it's like, oh my god, this is not what I wanted to do to this poor woman. And then ding, and then like just awkward kind of like as he walks back and he gets in the car and he sits down and he's like, throws a pocket watch on the on the floor and drives off, speeding down the thing. Ghost cop.
Friends, that was so great. Thank you so much for going on that journey with me. I really, really enjoyed this a lot. I just thought this is a testament to you two as players, as role players, going with it, and really just throwing a lot of interesting stuff in there. I would love if we could take 10 minutes. I want to ask kind of more targeted questions about this game, if that's okay with you all. And let me just get to a place where I can write stuff down. Were there, let's start with what worked. And I wonder, Will, if you wouldn't mind going first, was there something that you sort of weren't too sure about at the beginning, but ended up working pretty well? Or was there something that surprised you about, like, oh, this actually clicked pretty nicely?
I like, it did really seem like really good, the ghosts, and I actually really enjoyed the indirect conversations and framing of like our interactions. As this isn't the part for like the critical part of it, like I think it had problems as well, but like it also was really inspiring and evocative in another way,
Yeah.
And I really like the idea of the leads to clues, escalating a lead to a clue. Like that feels like that could have something really juicy there with like, here's your vague leads and how you transition them into solid information, actionable stuff. I'm not sure if we really, but I like that as an idea, like a lot. I think a little bit more definition between the two things mechanically, like the difference between a lead and a clue and how you acquire both of them.
Okay.
But like I really, really like that idea a lot, and the histories, they're all really well written. Like, those, I think, come up with great ideas. I like the idea that you can use clues to boost your rolls as well in some way.
Yeah.
Like,
Stephen, what about you? What worked really well?
So I tried to write some stuff down real quick in chat so I could remember. The thing that worked really well, I was a little concerned about how fast the attunement would move up. And it moved up very, very quickly. It was very nice. I actually think a good portion of the reason it moved up so quickly was because of the use of the histories. Um, that was a mechanic I hadn't seen or didn't recognize in the game whenever we started out. But being able to take any negative result, which would increase your stress, and use a history to then bump it up, and that meant that you could then, because you had a success, you could then use the increase your attunement, seemed to cause that to push further, which was
Right.
nice.
Right. Cool. What else worked for you, Stephen? Is there other things?
Yeah, so I was a little concerned about, like we talked about sort of maybe before the recording started, that it would be too easy for the ghost to be sidelined during the game. That, the ghost is quiet and can't communicate fully and is communicating an emotion and things like that. Choosing the artifact helped a lot because it meant I could uh, possess objects and manipulate physical things, even though um, I hadn't reached that level of attunement at that point.
Right.
That was very good. It seems like there's a lot of extra work on the GM's side in order to keep, for I'm going to assume for the detective, it's like, okay, who do you want to talk to next? For the ghost, you have to constantly prompt and say, okay, um, do you want to inject a feeling or do you want to inject a memory or do you constantly have to keep that attuned. Yeah. So it's extra work for the GM. Yeah.
That's interesting feedback. So since you started to go there, Stephen, is there anything else? What other ideas do you feel like, or what other aspects of the game do you think were challenging or didn't work quite as smoothly?
I can't think of anything else immediately. The only challenge there, and to be honest, I think it's a testament to the way that you were GMing this and to the way that William was kind of going through stuff, was basically as we played, it was, oh, what's the feeling that you get from Casey? What's the memory that gets injected? Where did we see this? I think all of that's very important. I think you as a GM handled it perfectly. I think handing that over to someone else as a GM might be a little bit of a challenge because they'd have to keep that in mind. And that's the only thing I can really think of.
So we should, in the rules, I think, as written right now, do a good job of sort of, I think, walking the GM through, like, how do you construct a mystery out of this? But what that doesn't do is say, how do you get two people who cannot communicate directly with each other? How do you involve them both in the scene? Okay.
And specifically, like a statement in the rules about how to keep the ghost character involved. And I think it's exactly what you said. Maybe one of the agendas is how is the ghost's feelings, emotional state impacting the current scene?
Got it.
Yeah.
That's great. That's really good feedback. I was regretting when we were at about kind of 11:30, or sort of half hour from the end. I was regretting not injecting another ghost NPC into this, because I felt like that was sort of another. I really liked how that all played out, and that's a testament to you, Stephen, thinking about how to use that. That was great. How to use the groundskeeper. Did you want more of that? Did you feel like the story needed, or your character needed, more connections to the spiritual world?
I did not feel that towards the end, but I remember thinking, now that you brought that up, I remember thinking at the time that you interjecting a ghost NPC was brilliant because for the observer, there's a little bit of a mystery there, and for the player, the ghost player, that's the only person you can interact normally with. And I think that's really important because the ghost player could easily go down the route of just scene dressing.
Yep.
Because they can't interact with the living world.
Yep.
But by introducing that ghost NPC early on, that meant that they had someone to go back to, or
Yep.
someone that they could interact with in a normal perspective. So I would include that in the the GM discussion as well in the rules. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and actually, in the movie Ghost, there's a character played by Whoopi Goldberg who is she's a medium and she's a charlatan, but it turns out she can actually see ghosts, which she did not know that she could do. And so this is kind of another potential interesting connection that the GM could use is maybe there's a professor of religion on campus, right, who actually could see you or something like that. Anyway, cool.
That could actually be one of the moves for the Ghost playbook. Is you have a charlatan medium that you can communicate with, or I mean, literally take the character out of Ghost. You have a reluctant charlatan medium that you can communicate with if you can convince them.
Yeah, there was. Let's see. I lost it. Trying to remember the other moves for the Ghost.
Revenge, clerical error, and guardianship.
Yeah, but that could be another possibility. We do put a list of NPCs at the end, and there are mortal NPCs and supernatural NPCs, and one of the supernatural ones is oh no. Yeah, one of them is a psychic hack, a scam artist.
That's that.
Yeah. Anyway, cool. That was great. Will, what didn't work well, or what do you think needs?
What I was saying about the leads and the clues. You were very generous in giving us clues instead of leads, and the rule in moves that said
Yes.
Which I thought made sense because those are moves that are designed to give you solid information as well as depending on the framing, right? But if you can only get clues by coming together, it's going to make you harder to do anything separately because leads feel more like kind of what a mixed success should give you, and a clue gives you a full one.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? But I really like the idea. So I just, I don't know how you manage the economy of that across the whole thing, I think that we made it work, but it could easily not be the case. The focus on our character relationship, between our two memories of the other person, things like that, flashbacks, and how that evokes. I enjoyed but it did often feel like we were playing. It's the thing I loved. It often felt like we were playing my character as he gets influenced by Casey together. You know what I mean? Like you say, the set dressing kind of thing. It's more like, Stephen, tell me how I play my character for this scene kind of thing, and obviously some of that would come in anyways, but I think it ultimately, for me, it still boils down to that inability to directly communicate with each other, which I really liked, but I wonder if there's room to play within that. I will, not to keep on going on about it, but I will try and get you hooked up with Randall and Hopkirk, because I do think that would where you can have the guy can talk to the ghost directly, but then when they're away from each other, that's when those how close are they connected kind of comes in. Can we communicate emotions, thoughts,
I see,
things? And also those seem like they'd be really interesting triggers for how the ghost can interact with the outside world, because it feels as though, barring that possess an object, you have to get right down to the way of the attunement table before you can do any kind of slightly move a cup or whatever, right?
Right.
But if you can talk to your, if you're at the emotional level, you can't really do anything. But if you could feel emotions from living people, or of the move into the sort of the weirdness of being a ghost a little bit more, you can sense this room tastes of anger, or you know what I mean? You're a supernatural being now, and you've got supernatural senses, and those kind of attunement levels show how you can interact with the real world in alternative ways rather than conventional ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does this make sense?
I think that maybe the ghost and the investigator have unique individual moves that allow them to gather information or see things that the other can't see. The other thing I'm hearing is, we were fairly strict about what the ghost and the investigator can and cannot communicate with each other, but maybe we can give the players a power of kind of breaking through that boundary at a cost. So, I'm imagining Casey working really, really, really hard. You all take stress, but you can communicate a single message to Cole or something like that, just once or twice a session, or mark another history or something like that, that allows you to do that.
Because you know, at some point, it'd be fun to have, like, you can influence the emotions of the people that the player's talking to. You know, you can make them angry so they spill some secrets or whatever, right? That kind of stuff. But I always wondered, an idea that struck me, and I know this is like a big change to the whole thing, is like, I like the achievement levels and like the different things that they give you. I'm wondering if that could be done as a tokeny type system. So like when you hold 4 tokens, you can do these basic things or spend a token to do these moves, you know? And then it would be like, the more the ghost exerts itself, the weaker it gets. And it could power that thing that you were talking about spend a token to directly communicate with your mortal anchor, you know? When you've got 2 tokens, you can go beyond, you know, or you can travel far away from your human companion. Or
so there's actually something in the game. I think you touched on this, Dan, and said maybe you could mark off another history. So there's a certain number of history uses that each playbook has. I think it's 6 or 7 if I look at it briefly, and it seems like as being able to auto succeed and move up a level, that's pretty powerful. So I was suggesting let's reduce the number of those. But if that instead is every time you want to communicate, you mark 1 off, that means you only get to communicate at most 7 times. And any time that you make that bump and say, okay, I'm going to take a 6- and move it to a 7, that makes it feel more costly because that's 1 less time you can talk directly with the other player.
Right. In Brindlewood, this is a mechanism stolen basically directly from Brindlewood, but the difference is some of the things that you can mark in Brindlewood end up having a consequence that either affects the narrative or mechanics or something in the game. So I could see doing something similar where the number of histories that you mark off has some kind of negative consequence that you have to carry with you through the game as well. So a couple different ways to play that. Friends, sorry.
I did cross my mind the Crowns of the Void thing, and I was like, that feels like you could use that to take it into you know, the sort of the deeper, weirder side of it, or the solving the ghost mystery. You know, like as you cross them off, you get closer towards who killed my partner kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Or a ghost shows up that is constantly bothering the ghost, right? And like is not helpful, but just a pain in the ass. Yeah.
Or dragging them back to hell.
Right.
Or whatever. Yeah.
It's fascinating. Friends, this was so good. I mean, ultimately, my criteria is, did I have fun? And this was just such a great few hours for me. I hope it was for you as well. Any other thoughts? Just send me a message.
So I had a thought real quick before I forget, which is it seemed like we were able to mark clues and move up on that track fairly quickly. It felt narratively correct during the game, but it meant there was very little risk during the solve the mystery.
Right.
So also, like, that's what I think about the leads clues thing, you know, because once we had clues that we could further the investigation with, it made more sense to use those clues and develop those leads.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
and I was curious, looking at the solve the mystery, which I only really looked at that move at the very end. The consequences below 11 are erase all marked clues and pick a new lead to investigate.
Right.
So that makes the end of the game a little bit variable. You could literally, get to the, okay, I think we're good enough, and on a bad roll, suddenly it was like, oh, we erase all of these, and maybe we start over with another session.
Right.
I'm not sure how that would work in time wise.
Yeah.
Myself.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't do that roll until you had a bunch of clues, which would take you game time, and then you'd have to start again, and then you'd.
Yeah.
I like the idea. So it would definitely be like, we didn't solve this case, gang, so next week we're going to do and take a whole different route, kind of thing.
Literally, it seems like to me that this case becomes a cold file, right? And it gets filed away, and can be picked up at a later time, maybe in another one shot.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah, you know what? Never mind. It's fine. I agree. Yeah. It was the fact that, like, well, you're never going to roll with a +1, are you? Because you don't have any. If all you had is leads, then you're just going to be. You don't have any clues.
Right.
Then you are. You know what I mean? You're already like, we're at +4, but that's how much we gathering clues. We got a clue, we used it. We got a clue, we used it. We got a clue, we used it. We went. You're not going to get one clue and then go, actually, I think it was Professor. There's no way we could have come up with that theory at +1.
Right. It makes me wonder if, I mean, and this is unfortunately just a consequence of my GM style of not getting enough stress, right? Stress is really the thing that needs to kind of pull you back. And what we didn't get to test out was if you hit the end of stress, your relationship takes a hit there. But I wonder if there are other ways to earn stress, because that was the one skill that did not go up quickly. And if there are other consequences to having stress, like maybe instead of rolling with the marked clues, you roll with the marked clues minus the accumulated stress. So if you've created a lot of pressure and heat around your investigation, that makes it much harder for you to get to that conclusion with it.
So without the histories and the ability to move those, we would have moved up the stress track significantly faster.
Right.
And I think we traded marking history points for marking stress points. So I think the stress track speed was fine if there was a cost to that mitigation of marking the histories.
Yeah, that's good.
You also mentioned the conclusion. It depends on what you're going for. I don't know if let's say, for example, if we had rolled Snake Eyes at the very end and said, okay, our theory might be true, but we are unable to prove the position or the culprit escaped, erase all current leads and clues and create a new lead. I'm not sure how good of a game that would have felt. Like, that might have felt punishing for a bad die roll.
I mean, if it was Lowell, he would just say Professor Melton, then shoots Professor Nelson in front of you and says, "No, you've stumbled across my evil plan."
That's exactly right. That's good.
Yeah.
Will and I are playing in a Brindlewood Bay with Lowell, and someone, I'm not going to point fingers, booted the roll, our theorized roll, and a murder happened in front of us, and it was not good, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for Lowell.
Yeah.
But I really, really did it. I feel like this is what you're after, right? Is all the feedback.
Totally.
But like, I did very much enjoy playing. Like I love the idea a lot.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and I agree. I had a lot of fun. I'm not a big mystery game person because they can be kind of fraught. Right. And this felt very good because we could develop all the clues as we moved along, act on them, and get to a satisfying conclusion. Right. It all felt very good as we moved along.
Okay.
And some of the concerns that I had about playing the Ghost worked out completely fine. I attribute a lot of that to your good GMing and prompting and all of that. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to fix that solve the mystery move, because I don't know. It just feels like I think that 8 to 10 is pretty unsatisfying and would just be very frustrating for the players. I see it kind of like Stephen and you were talking about at the beginning, is like, okay, maybe we solved the mystery, but I carry something bad with me to the next mystery that we solve, right? It has a consequence on the players, or the characters, not on the mystery itself. So.
Part of it, from a player perspective, part of the final move that concerns me is the erase all marked clues and pick a new lead to investigate.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I love the idea that the culprit escapes. You solved the mystery, but the culprit escapes.
Yeah.
Is a great 8 to 10.
Yes.
And then you can say, include this culprit as a lead in the next adventure.
Right.
It could be like a list. Choose one from the list. The culprit doesn't get away. Someone doesn't get hurt. Like.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, friends. This was so great. Thank you so much again for your time. I really appreciate it. Everyone okay with me posting the recording, or at least sharing it with Sam?
Oh yeah.
So very good.
Both is fine. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks, guys, and Will, I'll see you on Sunday.
See you on Sunday.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye,
See
y'all.
ya.